Well, it's my signature start to my videos in recent times. 1 meter of path to remove, and we're getting down this path now, and well, it's quite interesting. We've still got a bit of height to take out at the top, but just taking the grass off is giving me the level that I need to get married to the other paths. So that's good news. Right, this shouldn't take long. Well, I've said it before, but it feels incredibly autumnal this morning. And I think that feeling is accentuated by the number of leaves on the ground. Right, let's get rid of this. Well, we're the back end of August now, and well, it's very still. It's not cold, but very overcast. It's lovely being out here early in the morning. And well, I've got a couple of things I want to show you. A few things that people have inquired about. So let's go and have a look. You may remember I put my parsnips in quite late from toilet rolls, having grown them in toilet rolls in the polytunnel. And they were very small plants, and I'm sure a few people doubted that they would be able to get on well enough to have some produce in the late sort of autumn, early winter period. And you can see that they've come on beautifully, and I'm pleasantly surprised what great condition the leaves are in. And I guess that's because parsnips don't really suffer from pests too much above ground because the leaves are not that palatable. But you can get an idea down there of how that is the top of a parsnip forming nicely. In fact, come on, let's just give it a bit of a root round and see. There you go, look at that. Absolutely wonderful. So parsnips are looking good, even though they went in what appears to be quite late. Well, it's approaching autumn, and September, October is the sort of time when I start to redistribute the compost that I made during the winter months across the beds so that they're reinvigorated to grow vegetables for next year. And I put a lot of the success of vegetables on my plot down to the fact that I'm feeding it with new good quality compost. But I've had a number of inquiries about how these compost bins have fared and what's actually happening underneath the covers. So we'll take a look today. And I don't know whether you recall, if you watch my channel regularly, you'll know that this one on the right caused me some problems. It didn't seem to get quite up to temperature, and there was lots of suggestions as to what to do, and I tried a few, but at the end of the day, I've always found that just leaving it throughout the course of the year, right the way through to the time when I disperse it around the plot, it tends to rot down quite well. So we'll open this one up and just take a look at what's underneath. I'll show you. So here we go. I have not looked at this one for quite a while. Let's take off these covers. There's a rogue potato there. There's lots of worms in the tops of these covers, which is a great sign. And there we are. You can see that it's just a solid mound of compost. And there we go. I can put my hand in it and just open it up, and it's crumbly and beautiful, just perfect, full of worms. And the only question in this one is whether I managed to kill all the weed seed. And I won't know that, I can't tell that now, but I won't know it until I get to the point where those seeds would germinate. I'm going to take away this more coarse material from the outside because it obviously hasn't rotted down, but I don't know, that's about 18 inches high, and this is larger than a metre square, so there's probably the equivalent of, I don't know, 6, 7 bags of compost in here. And there'll be the same in the one down the way, 3 bays down, and probably another 10 to 15 bags worth in the big one in the corner. And that'll go around my plot. In fact, I think I might even have spare this year, which would be great because I'll be able to make some seed compost. And you know, I'll probably take it from the one down there, because if there's any risk that there's weed seed in here, I don't want it. But if the other ones are like this, then that'll make perfect seed compost. Good times. I was thinking this morning that we woke up and we had a coffee and we chatted about what we wanted for tea, and I guess that's what a lot of people do. And I wonder whether, well, I'm almost certain that people who grow their own vegetables have a completely different conversation to the rest of the population, because it goes something like, what should we have for tea? And you sort of focus on the main feature of your meal, probably chicken, or you may be vegan or you may be vegetarian, but for us it tends to be fish or a small piece of meat. And then your brain immediately switches to, well, what vegetables are we going to have and what's available on the plot? And that's what I've done this morning, just carried out our thoughts, which was, let's have some beans and some new potatoes and a bit of kale. And it's just wonderful to walk to your plot and fulfill your menu straight from the ground, grown by yourself. You know there's no chemicals involved. You know that it's, well, going to be really tasty. It might be a little bit wonky. It does amuse me how sometimes you see in the supermarkets now a slightly lower price on wonky vegetables, but there we are. That's the way it goes. So that'll be what we're having for tea, with a bit of chicken. Good times. You know how you sometimes lay in bed thinking about things, and often for me it's what I'm going to do in the plot. And I was thinking, what am I going to do with these other purple sprouting broccoli? And well, the elephant in the room was the fact that I had this huge bed that I'd taken the onions out of, and it was glaringly obvious that I could grow some of these purple sprouting broccoli in here. So I'm just going to grow them in the middle there. So in terms of this bed, it's fallow because I've taken the onions out. I know there's white rot in there. I've got this pile or mound of what is probably white rot infested greenery from those onions, and I've got a bit of coriander that's gone to seed. So I'm going to take that out, but I'm in no hurry. There's a little bit there that we could use, and this is going to be dug in to wherever I'm going to grow onions next year, as long as I know that there is white rot in the bed that I put them in. And I successfully grew garlic using that method this year. So this bed can then live on through to the early part of next year, where I can decide what I'm going to do with it, because the purple sprouting broccoli will have come out by then. So I'll get these in, and then they can grow on to the heart's content. I'm pretty sure I've got all the caterpillars that were munching on them removed, but as I put them in, I'll take another look. Well, there's rain forecast for this afternoon, so I don't think I'm going to have a need to even water these in. I might put a splash over them. Right, onward. I've been shaping this holly tree for quite a few years now. I notice that I'm going to need to take something out of the top, probably a little later on. But what I have got down under here, growing out of the trunk, is a whole load of suckers. And I lifted this tree because I needed to make it accessible to work around. And I definitely don't want a load of suckers growing down below. I'll show you. I'm just going to remove them now. So these will grow on and become substantial branches if I don't remove them. And given that I've put all the effort into shaping this, I'm going to remove them before they get too big. And of course it's taken away from growing the rest of the tree and filling out the branches where I might have removed them. There's also a few down below at ground level, so I'll do the same there. And this tree should grow on in the shape that I want it, and hopefully will be here for many more years. Well, this apple tree is doing well. I've got some lovely apples on there, and I just want to make sure that this bed is not so unruly. So we've had Sweet Williams in here now, and they're biennial, and this year they gave us a lovely show. I don't know whether these are still dropping seed. Yes, they are. But I want to take all of these out now, clean the bed, and I'm thinking that with the volume of compost that I've got this year, that I'm probably going to put a layer of compost in each one of these beds just to give all the trees a boost. I've got one tree that's looking very suspect, but all the others are doing quite nicely, and I'm sure it'll do them a lot of good. And the other thing I might do is the ones that I don't grow in, I might just cover so that I'm not constantly having to weed. Thumbs up for lower maintenance. Right, let's get this bed sorted out. There we are, done. And there are a few grubs in there which I got rid of, and there's a snail which is going. But breaking up the soil surface also helps to get plenty of moisture down to the roots of this apple, so it doesn't hurt just to break the surface when you've removed old plants like that. Good times. I've just been looking at the red currant bushes, still laden with berries. So the birds have got plenty to eat on this plot, that's for sure. But I'm noticing how so much of it is encroaching on this bed. So I'm beginning to think about what I'm going to do in the autumn as those leaves start to drop. I definitely am going to take the side out of some of these bigger red currant bushes. They are so large now, and give myself a bit of light onto this bed. And it's also incredibly congested in there. I can't really get to that to weed it, well, not without a lot of trouble anyway. So I really am going to bring those berries under control, which prompted me to take a look at the various fruit that I've got around the plot now and sort of start to think about when I'm going to harvest that. Let's take a look what exists on the apple trees and pear trees. So the pear tree, as you know, last year didn't have anything on it at all because it wasn't pollinated, and the cold weather kept away the bees. But this year it's absolutely laden, and there's some amazing pears in here. I'll have a quick count: 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, gosh, 16, 18, 20. There must be 50, 60 pears on here. Just oodles, way more than we're going to need. So I'm going to be looking for local people who enjoy a pear. I think they don't store too well. I found that the best way to ripen them is to put them in the fridge for a good 2 to 3 weeks after you've harvested them, and then they become really soft and succulent. So it's going to be a fantastic season for pears. Let's have a look at the apples that are just here. So these are very young trees, but we've got 2 apples on there that are worth eating, and this one has got 4 or 5, and I thinned these out so that I could get bigger apples. And I'm very worried about this tree. This tree seems to have some canker forming in it, and it's right on one of the main branches. So gosh, it's really difficult with apples, certainly in my experience. And these are, I think, although they look a lovely blush and yellow, they did feel like they were cookers, because I did have one that fell, and we sliced a bit off of it to see what it was like, and to be honest, it was quite a dry apple. So I don't know, we'll wait until they get just a little bit more ripe and we'll try those. Otherwise they'll be sliced and stewed and put in the freezer. Right, what else have we got? Nothing else on these trees. We've got fairly young plum trees. We had a couple of cherries off of the cherry tree. Let's go and have a look at the big apple tree. I think this is called Green Dragon, but it had far fewer apples on it this year than any previous year. But the ones that are on it are glorious. They are bigger than they've ever been. So, you know, it's nature's way of deciding what you're going to eat, I think. But there's little clusters of fairly substantial size apples on here, and around the back there's some more big ones up the top, and this is becoming a massive tree which I controlled this year and I'm going to need to control next year. Right, around the tradesman entrance for these, because I'm assured by my neighbour that my Bramley apples have got some fruit on them and that you can see them from up here. So there we are. So there's a couple of apples there, and there's a couple of bigger ones around the tops of the trees. So it'll be a bit of a hunt when I come to harvest these, but it's good to have apples on them because I haven't had apples on them for quite some time. Right, let's have a look at the plum tree. Plums. You can see the tree is laden with sort of, well, grape coloured plums, and they've got this lovely blue hue on them, which is on the surface, and they're starting to drop now, which the chickens like. But I'm thinking it's very soon going to be time to harvest these, and it's a fine line because some are still green, but there's a whole dearth of them on there. They're fairly small, so they might be a bit fiddly, but I'm going to make sure that we use these one way or another, probably for plum jam. That's me done for today. I hope you've enjoyed my morning on the plot. It's been very productive, and if you did, well then why not click the like and subscribe. And if you want my updates every Wednesday and every Sunday at 8 p.m, why not click on the bell and get notifications. Hope you've had a good week on the plot. Good times.